Good morning, just Patrick here, live again from Complete Health. And I've had a few people talking to me about this week in the clinic, and it's the conversation surrounding sleep. This is probably one of the most common dysfunctions in the 21st century because our lifestyles set our brain up to be in a constant state of heightened arousal. So let me just explain what that basically means is that when we're moving around or going about our daily business, there is constantly stuff going on around us, whether that's on mobile phones, sending notifications, whether that's adverts that are popping up on road signs, whether that's adverts on the TV or the radio, whether there's that thing that you forgot to do this afternoon, finance. So our brain is constantly in this state of arousal, and as a result, it makes it really, really difficult to switch off and go to sleep. So our brain or our autonomic nerve system has really two functions: arousal or rest. Now, arousal is essentially instigated when we want to get away from danger. So when you want to fall asleep, you ideally want to get away from that state of arousal and really go into that rest state. So what we want to do is we want to try and trigger that parasympathetic part of our nerve system to switch on so that we can start to actually easily fall asleep. So 3 big tips that I tend to find that those that are not sleeping properly tend to be very guilty of before they go to bed. So number 1, not emitting the light from the room. Now there was I forget the name of the author, but the book is called Why We Sleep. And actually in this post, I've just put a couple of the benefits of decent night's sleep. So what we know, it improves people's healing, their recovery time from injuries, it improves state of awareness or arousal. It generally improves cognitive function. So there are tons and tons of, even weight loss. This is a really ironic one. A lot of people don't even link this, but if you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep per day, your risks of being overweight or obese significantly rise. So blackout blinds or blackout curtains or some way of emitting the light in your room. Now, I've said blackout curtains, but really any light in your room is going to make a massive difference. So if you've got stuff like Wi-Fi routers that have got little bleeping lights on them, if you've got a toothbrush charging at the side of the room, if you've got TVs that have got little LED standby lights on them, any little blips or lights in your room can actually, ironically, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a lot, it only needs to be a little bit, but those little blips of light can actually disturb your sleep. And like I say, it doesn't necessarily have to be a lot. Now, other things that will disturb sleep, as far as obviously light, maybe not light is concerned, but is electronics. So if you have electronics in the room, that can also massively affect your sleep as well. So generally, as a rule of thumb, you don't really want your mobile phone sitting next to your bed because quite often you'll have notifications and stuff going through the night, and then that light will wake you up or bring you out of that deep sleep. So keeping your curtains generally closed, so when cars and stuff drive past your house, again, the light from the cars doesn't come through your windows. All of those things will contribute. Now, number 2 is not looking at your phone screens or TV screens for an hour before you go to bed. Now, mobile phones and TVs emit a red light, which again, it starts to initiate a certain part of the brain, which actually keeps us in that heightened state of arousal. It produces the hormones such as cortisol, etc., that actually bring us into a state of arousal. So when we're coming away from sleep and we're coming to being more alert, our brain starts to produce cortisol so that we can actually start to be aware of our surroundings. Whereas when we want to fall asleep, we want to produce something called melatonin, which is another hormone that helps us fall asleep. Well, if we're constantly around light, our brain stops producing melatonin and actually starts producing cortisol again, which will keep us in that heightened state of arousal. So one of the easiest ways that you can actually start to aid your way to sleep is start slowly dimming the lights or turn all the lights off in your house and use only candlelight, and turn your phone onto the blue light setting if you're going to use it before bed, or don't use it before you go to bed. So if you turn your phone off an hour before you go to bed, or stop using it an hour before you go to bed, you'll actually find that you can significantly improve your sleep. Now, something else that massively improves sleep is working on your body temperature. So when we fall asleep, we like to go from a higher body temperature to a slightly cooler body temperature. And as you go from hot to cooler, you'll naturally find that you can kind of boost yourself into that deep sleep. So actually taking a hot shower or bath just before you go to bed, so it rises your body temperature, so that when you get into bed, it starts to lull back down again. That naturally takes you towards that deep state of sleep. Now, something else you can do is drink a hot decaffeinated. So I wouldn't really advise coffee or tea unless you've got something like a white tea or a red bush tea, so that it's naturally low in caffeine. You want a naturally low caffeine source just before you go to bed, because again, a hot drink will start to increase your central body temperature. And again, you may not want to go for something like a hot chocolate because it will be full of sugar, and that sugar will start to kind of take you to more of like a heightened state of activity or hyperarousal, like it does with kids with ADHD. If you give them a load of sugar, then generally as a rule of thumb, they're going to have that big sugar boost, which you don't really want to do just before you go to bed. So 3 tips, really simple to help you fall asleep. Black out blinds, or emit as much light as you possibly can from the room, as well as all electronics where possible. If you have got electronics, one of the easiest things you can do is just put a little piece of black tape on any of the lights that are on the electronics, if for whatever reason you need to have them in the room. Number 2, make sure that you're obviously going from a hot state to a cold state. And number 3, make sure you're not using your screens just before you go to bed. And if you are going to use your screens just before you go to bed, make sure you turn them to the right setting. Make sure you turn them to the right setting so that they do not disturb your sleep. Guys, sleep is super important to healing. That includes your back pain, neck pain, joint pains. It includes anything like fibromyalgia or MS. We know that an improved lifestyle helps pretty much every condition on the planet. Doesn't necessarily get rid of it, but it definitely helps to manage a lot of the symptoms of these things. So everything that we're giving you advice for is about improving your body, not necessarily getting rid of a condition, but improving the overall function of your body so that you can do what you want to do best, which is hopefully heal and thrive. We want everyone to thrive in our clinic. Until tomorrow, take care.